You're listening to In the Balance, an Iowa Judicial Branch podcast. Welcome back. In this month's episode, I am sitting down with District 4 Court Administrator Laura Kyndesen to talk about her experience as a clerk of court, a DCA, and how distributive workload processing between counties is not only streamlining work for judicial employees, but improving court services for Iowans as well. Thank you for joining me today, Laura. Before we get started, tell me a bit about your path to the courts.
Well, I went to the University of Northern Iowa, and I got my bachelor's in Spanish. And shortly after I graduated, I saw the post for, I think it was a judicial clerk at that time, position in Potawatomi County. And so I applied for that, and I think probably my Spanish helped me get that position just because that was back in 2002, and so the Spanish-speaking population was starting to grow in our area, and the need for that language bridge was becoming more prevalent in the Omaha, Council Bluffs metro area. So it really helped. I started in the small claims area, but then got moved over to the traffic area and just, helped customers, the tickets, payments, that kind of thing. But also, of course, with any Spanish-speaking needs within the clerk's area of jurisdiction and just helping customers in that way. So that's where I started. And then a few years later, I was promoted to lead worker and then was able to get the trial court supervisor position when my supervisor retired. And then shortly after, the clerk of court retired, and then I applied and was appointed for clerk of court in Potawatomi County, and that was in 2017.
And as you mentioned, you were a clerk of court before taking on your current role as district court administrator for the 4th District. So tell me a bit about your duties as a clerk.
There was a lot of, I think, a lot of quality assurance. You want to make sure that your staff is doing things correctly and accurately according to what the courts need, assisting customers, assisting judges, assisting attorneys as best we can and what's appropriate. In Pot County, there was about 28 staff, so I was supervising about 28 people directly and indirectly because we had 2 trial court supervisors at that time. And then just a lot of, like I said, quality assurance, checking reports, making sure that we were up to par as far as financial standards, making sure there were balancing within the monthly duties that way, and just getting ready for the audit every year. I also served on some different committees. Financial committee was one of them, and I really enjoyed the financial committee just because financial, I kind of always clicked with financial, and it was really great to be around like-minded people on that committee and just know what things were coming down the pike as far as financial changes and how that was going to affect the clerk's office. And then in 2019, one of the other clerks in D4 retired, and I was appointed as the Harrison County clerk as well. So had a couple of years experience as multiple county clerk of court, which was a little bit different for me, but yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And now as DCA or District Court Administrator, what do those job duties look like? And what was that transition like for you going from a clerk overseeing county courthouses to all of the counties in District 4?
Well, I will say I'm pretty new as District Court Administrator still, so I'm still learning a lot and having to rely on the other DCAs quite a bit throughout the state, and they're always very helpful. Whenever I have a question, just send out an email, and they're always willing to supply any knowledge that they have and can contribute. That's really nice to know that help is there statewide, because I've always relied on it in our district as well. Whenever we had a question within the clerk's area, either the big C or capital C clerk of court, as we call it, or the little C's clerks, we just always did a shout out. And so it's always nice to know that you've got peers or someone that you can reach out to and ask questions. As far as the transition, I'm I think it was super helpful to have that clerk of court level knowledge, just because I was exposed to protocols and code restrictions and that kind of thing that really helped to have that knowledge base coming into the court administrator position. What I didn't expect was to have, probably within my first month of service as a district court administrator, I had a district court judge retire and a district associate judge take that position, and us needing to fill 2 district associate judge positions right off the bat, along with the district judge position. So it's been a whirlwind of just getting to know commissioners, how to contact all those people, how to orchestrate publications and announcements. And so it's definitely been a good experience in getting to know who exactly you need to contact and where to contact those people within a district.
Absolutely. And Iowa's judicial branch has been working on this new system of distributive workload processing, and District 4 has been a part of that for a while now. Can you tell me a bit about what this program is and what function it's serving?
I will say D4 was, I think, one of the pilot districts, or at least we were one of the first ones to say, yes, we want to do that. However, we've had so much change over the last 5 years as far as personnel that we would get the ball rolling, and then we'd kind of be like, okay, well, we need to restructure or refocus on this depending on the personnel and where they were situated. So I think that set us back a little bit, but our focus has always been, how do we get our district, each of the 9 counties in our district kind of working together, getting the clerks and court admin staff kind of in sync a little bit on processes, especially the clerks, just because, from county to county, someone might translate or interpret a filing a different way. Maybe they use a different kind of docket event code, or they see it as needing handled in a different way. And so that distributive work process, the goal of that is to make sure that all the counties are doing it the same way, so that it's all streamlined, and then there aren't any discrepancies when filers or attorneys or judges even are coming to us and saying, how come this happened, or how do you guys do this? Then any clerk in any county can answer that question. And of course, the clerk's manual committee and the manuals themselves play a big part in that, and the accounting committee too, which writes up the financial manual and the accounting manuals. That all helps to give us the clerks an actual source on where to go for all that information. So, yeah.
Great. And then what benefits have you seen firsthand or from your peers in District 4 about this process, or starting to get it rolling?
Well, some of the other counties that previously had one clerk, so for instance, Cass, Audubon, and Shelby had one clerk for a while, and then the 4 southern counties each had one clerk per 2 counties. And so in a way, they were doing some of the things ahead of time, just because they, for instance, one clerk would have 2 or 3 counties, and maybe that one particular county might have a couple of people out sick, or one person out sick, and they needed coverage. And so they were able to pull an available clerk from another county and say, hey, can you cover for me in this county? And so in a way, they were doing that ahead of time. And so we want to take that idea and apply it to the whole district. And that could be actually pulling a physical person and saying, hey, can you come up to this county and cover? Or just knowing that, one clerk can call another clerk and say, hey, I'm short in this county. Could one of your people just watch our queues and help with the filings on a certain day? And then the person that's actually left in the office can focus on phone calls and helping people at the counter, that kind of thing. As far as personal experience, I think as for myself, when I took Harrison County, they were still learning a little bit. They had some different personnel in different departments, and so they were still learning some of the different case types. And so it was super helpful to have Pot County staff available to just be contacts. Harrison County was contacting Pot County via instant messaging or email or even a phone call and just saying, hey, how do you guys handle this? And so I was able to pair up what I called phone a friend. People, Harrison County could phone their friend down in Pot County and say, hey, how do you process this type of petition, for instance? And so we just kind of lined it up that way. And like I said, I'm sure that's what the other clerks were doing in their counties as well. And so we're just trying to apply that district-wide.
And how will that distributive workload processing, how will those benefits transfer to Iowans who are accessing our court system?
I try to put myself in the place of someone coming to the court and needing something. And sometimes that's daunting. And that could be a domestic abuse issue, or it could be, just paying a ticket or whatever. And if you're not familiar with the court system, it could be very intimidating. I think the code's intimidating. I mean, and I've worked with it for almost 20 years. And so to be able to go to your local courthouse, regardless of where you got a ticket, and that could be within that district or within the state, but just for distributive work processing, for the sake of that, let's say, I'm a resident of Pot County, but if I got a ticket in Fremont County, I could hopefully go to Pot County and say, hey, I got this ticket. I have no idea what to do. Can you help me? And Pot County can say, oh, yeah, you got this ticket in Fremont County. I know that they offer a defensive driving course. You will have to check with their county attorney. Here's that number. And that's just a small example, but if you take that idea and expand it to the other case types, then hopefully, the clerk staff or court administration staff would be able to say, okay, here's what I can do for you up to this point, and then here's the information that you need after that. So that's kind of our goal for Iowans, but and that would be for customers or pro se parties. But when we're able to streamline that information, that expands to how the attorneys access and use the e-filing system, for instance. As long as they're getting consistent answers district-wide, then there's not that question. Okay, well, I filed this in Harrison County this way. Why is Pot County making me file it a different way?
Right.
So we want to avoid that kind of thing.
Right. Kind of streamlining and using the same practices across the district. Great.
Right.
And lastly, if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway about our judicial system here in Iowa, what would you like it to be?
I think that our judicial system is filled with people that enjoy the work. They are here because they like their jobs. They're here because they like to help people, whether that be the public or each other or attorneys or their judges. I think we're all passionate about what we're doing, and we want to do it right. And so I think I think it's good for everybody to know that. It's good for us as judicial employees to remember that we've got people that are just like us who are passionate about what we're doing. We just want to make sure we're doing it right, and how do we find the answer to make it right? But also for the public, because sometimes, they're angry about what has happened to them, and they're coming in and they want someone to take it out on. But it's helpful for them to know we really like our jobs and we want to help. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your time with me today, Laura.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You've been listening to In the Balance, an Iowa Judicial Branch podcast hosted and produced by me, Marissa Gaal. If you would like more information about Iowa's courts, you can visit www.iowacourts.gov. You can also follow the Iowa Judicial Branch on Twitter and YouTube @Iowa Courts. This episode of In the Balance is now adjourned. Until next time.